Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. With stories from your favorite Star Wars movies, television shows, and comics, you'll have plenty to keep you entertained. Start listening now wherever audiobooks are sold.
This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi, show number 348. We are your spoiler-free place for Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. I am your host, Dan Z, drinking One Nation Coffee, the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi, and I'm enjoying that out of my black Lucasfilm coffee mug. Excited to talk some Star Wars with you. Today's show, we have Drew Taylor talking about Tartakovsky's The Original Clone Wars animated micro-series that aired on the Cartoon Network. There were 2 seasons of it. They were certainly a much different Clone Wars than what we are used to from the Dave Filoni run, but there's a lot of fun to mine and to talk about. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.
Joining me today for a cup of coffee, actually, good news, he's joining all of us, Mr. Drew Taylor. He's an editor on Collider. He is, of course, the co-host of Light the Fuse and my brother-in-arms of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network for Fine-Tuning with Drew Taylor. Mr. Drew Taylor.
Hi, how are you? I'm so happy to be back. We haven't talked in so long since you deleted our episode.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. It was just it was required by I think a lot of people with wearing ties because of your riffraff appearance. How are you doing, man? Of course, you and I, and honestly, you and I talk probably daily.
Yes.
Yeah, which it brightens my day to see your name pop up on my phone. I have you on, of course, anytime I can talk to you is great, but specifically I want to talk to you about the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars animated micro-series seasons 1 and 2. To get ready for the show tonight, of course, I'd seen them when they originally aired, but I showed them to Mason as we were watching. He said, "Daddy, I think I like this as much or more than the stuff that is going, the new stuff, the new stuff." Yeah, and I got to say, we're going to get into this all over, but before we jump into just overall attitudes and thoughts and stuff, walk us through kind of the history of this, because you're certainly an animation expert.
Yeah, and I love Genndy. We should talk. He's the creator of Samurai Jack and Dexter's Laboratory and some things I'm sure you've had to watch as a parent of several young children. But yeah, it looks like all the episodes took place between episodes 2 and 3 of the theatrical episodes. And they were, I think the first batch was like between 2 and 4 minute episodes. And then the later ones were, I think, 10 minutes. And it was the first Star Wars animated series since the Ewoks show, which I know is a personal favorite of yours, Dan.
Yes. I don't think I've even seen that whole series, to be honest.
You've seen it?
No, I saw it when it first aired, the Ewok one, but I always kind of ignored it so I could watch. The droids one always came after, and I only watched that in case the Boba Fett episode showed up.
Was he on droids?
He was on one episode of droids.
Was it did he look like he did in the holiday special?
A little more modernized, but similar idea.
Okay. Well, apparently, Genndy talked to Lucas at one point about sort of becoming the John Lasseter of Lucasfilm Animation. And I talked to him a couple of years ago, I think for Hotel Transylvania 3. And he said, I was ready to go. My wife was looking at houses in the Bay Area. And then Lucas came to me and said, listen, you're only going to be doing Star Wars stuff for like the next 10 years. And that was never part of the plan. He had a Viking movie that he was going to be working on.
Who among us?
So he said, can't do it. And so Lucas brought in Dave Filoni, and that to me is like a very, very much a sliding doors moment. Had Genndy stayed on, we would have seen a different course for Lucasfilm Animation probably, and maybe the stories that are being told now. Although I would argue that there are a lot of influences that we can talk about from the show into stuff that's being produced today.
Sure.
But it's really interesting, and I think the episodes are fantastic. I'm glad Mason liked them. I'm glad that a new generation is appreciating them, but they're also pretty hard to find. I mean, they're on YouTube illegally, but you have the DVD of when they all came out?
Yeah, I have the DVDs of them, and they're still in. I mean, I take great care of all my stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's just DVD. It's not Blu-ray, and I mean, it sounds like we're gonna. You're about to mention this, but yeah, it's not on Disney Plus. It's not officially licensed and out there anywhere. So, what is your take on that? I mean, I have my kind of theories, and I've talked to some people about that, but what is your take on that?
Well, it's funny. I ran into Genndy many, many years ago at, I think, a Hotel Transylvania 2 event in New York. And I said, I love the Clone Wars. And he said, Lucas added all the stuff that I had added into like the sort of canonical Bible. And then when they started the new show, they just ripped all that stuff out. And so there's no place for my Clone Wars in the official canon, which I think is kind of bizarre given the fact that it was supposed to be the direct lead in to episode 3, especially that second batch of episodes, or I guess the third batch of episodes. Mm-hmm. There was even talk sometime of having that hour play before episode 3, wow, which I think would have been really cool to see that in a theater.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know why it hasn't been sort of adopted. I don't know why there's not room for both Clone Wars, especially on Disney Plus, which has it needs programming. So why not put it on? I mean, I know it's not that much time to fill, but I think people would love to see it, especially in HD. Like you said, we've never seen it in HD and cleaned up. But yeah, right. What is your theory?
Well, I mean, that was when I was watching it again, I was trying to figure out if there's anything in this series that is contradicted by Filoni's Clone Wars. And, nothing really stood out to me. There are certain stories that they told in this arc, like that. Well, I guess that's not true. The way that Asajj Ventress and Dooku meet is drastically different. But that happens in the audiobook Dooku Jedi Lost. That never happens in Clone Wars. So that's dramatically different. But we do get to meet Ventress in this series. I mean, I think that's a very important part. She's a terrific character. Same voice actress, same voice actor as Yoda and Obi-Wan. Although James Arnold Taylor sounds a little bit different in this one, but Anakin is different. Padme is different, at least in season 1. I didn't look at the voice credits for season 2, but when they decided that the Legends line was going to not be a part of this storyline, that was news, but it also wasn't news. And I actually talked to Steve Sansweet about this years ago, and he was working at Lucasfilm when this all transpired. And he said, look, all that stuff isn't canon. It was never canon. What was always canon was what George worked on, closely, which was, Filoni's Clone Wars and all of the films. That was canon. Nothing else was. It doesn't mean it's not valid or wonderful or has merit. And what I like about what Filoni and everybody did, because they seem to like the Tartakovsky stuff too, and how could you not? I mean, it's awesome, it's fun, it moves at a quick pace, the animation is clever. There's some awesome fight choreography, especially the one episode with Mace Windu against all that battalion of battle droids is legendary. Yeah. And I think that the General Grievous and the Tartakovsky stuff is the best version of Grievous, period. Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing, is that there's stuff in these episodes that sort of affects episode 3. There's the General Grievous. He's introduced in this show, much like Boba Fett in the Christmas special. He's introduced here first, and also we see Anakin get his braid chopped off, his like Jedi
super cool
Padawan braid. Right, that's like a big moment, and we see it in the animated series. So
it's when he becomes a Jedi Knight, they actually show the ceremony. That still hasn't happened in anything else,
right?
For any Jedi.
And to me, I mean, Lucas would not have sanctioned this thing if he didn't care about it and give it his blessing, because these are such important events. And unlike a lot of the other Legends materials, this one is so hard to find and so infrequently mentioned or addressed. Even on the Star Wars show, that conversation with Filoni, You could tell they like cut out a little bit about the Tartakovsky Clone Wars at the beginning.
Right.
And obviously the computer animated show owes a debt to it graphically. I know that Lucas was also inspired by the Thunderbirds marionettes, which I think is
creepy.
It's creepy and weird. It's a weird touchstone to put up there, but
something he liked growing up that obviously left an impression.
Yeah, but I mean, there is no, if you love the new Clone Wars, it couldn't really get to that point without these episodes. But yeah, I mean, the Mace Windu episode is absolutely incredible.
He punches battle droids and super battle droids like Bruce Lee.
Yes, I love when he does the hand thing and all the bolts come out. Oh, and they just kind of crumble.
It's so cool. It's seriously, there's some cutting edge of it, and then there's a besides Asajj Ventress, who's obviously still a part of the canon. Dirge is a bounty hunter that's only in a couple of episodes in season 1, and he's this weird species that underneath his armor is like this weird parasitic tentacled creature that doesn't seem to be able to be heard very easily. And Obi-Wan has a couple of sequences in the fight against him that I still haven't seen in any version of Star Wars. It's just like very athletic. I'm not even going to say ninja. It's more superhero than that. But it kind of puts Jedi in almost like a godlike status. And I don't know. I found it fun. I think that's one of the things that Mason liked about it. And Tartakovsky, his style anyway, and you can speak this much better than I can. His style is such that he sort of embellishes on fantasy, but it kind of makes it his own. How would you describe that?
I don't know. He kind of, you're right. He kind of synthesizes a lot of disparate, influences. I think that character that you're talking about that has the kind of tentacle, he's like a living muscle almost. Yeah. Feels very like Akira or something like that. And then you have things like the Bruce Lee and these more classic kind of touchstones that he's touching on. And he always does it in a really interesting way that's very accessible, but also feels like unlike anything you've ever seen before. He's kind of like Tarantino in that way, where he kind of ingests all these references and produces something that's wholly unique and new. And that's why I love these so much, because they really are unlike anything we've ever seen before in Star Wars. And they're mostly silent too, which I love. It's sort of the elemental power of Star Wars. And I think they're a little bit ahead of their time too, because I feel like today you could put those on YouTube and they would be huge. They're the perfect size. Yeah. You could just watch them less than one Quibi, all of these. And you could watch them and it would be great, but it was weird. It's kind of hard to find. I don't know if you remember when they were on, but they were kind of hard to find because they were kind of in between shows on Cartoon Network. And it was very odd, but, yeah, every once in a while you'll see an article like the one that I wrote for Sci-Fi. It's sort of standing up for it and stuff, which is nice. But I wish that it would just come out and be readily available to the world.
It also uses like very specific John Williams themes recorded by John Williams himself. Like they just pulled stuff from the movies. But there's also some original music too, which is very heroic and very, very cool. Do you know much about that at all?
I don't, but I love the music too. It's kind of fun too, because you can tell a lot of it's kind of stripped down, like synthesizer-y versions. And I think that's really fun and really fits this well. And also we forgot to talk about, the kind of opening narration from Yoda of each installment is borrowed with the kind of like newsreel-y stuff in the later Clone Wars episodes.
That Tom Kane does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And like Mason can't stop talking about the fact that Yoda was riding a space donkey at the very beginning of the very first episode.
Oh, I love that donkey or whatever it is.
I'm not sure what it is. It's super cool. There's a lot of cool things and designs to like about this. In addition to Asajj Ventress and Dirge, that bounty hunter, we do get to see Count Dooku. I guess he is voiced by Corey Burton. Still, like he is in the Dave Filoni Clone Wars, and he's great. The style we get to see a lot of. Kit Fisto has this one episode where he's underwater and he uses the Force to create this big bubble underwater. Yes, and he pushes it through, and it's better than anything in Jason Momoa Aquaman movie, in my opinion.
Right.
It's just really fun. But you mentioned seeing it. I remember when it first aired, being slightly frustrated because it was very hard to catch. It's not like it was, 8:00 p.m. Central Time. It's on Cartoon Network. It was more like, as you said, in between shows, and you had to record other shows or watch other things to hopefully catch it, and it would go so quickly. And I would end up always going to StarWars.com and watching the replays there. That was the only way that I got to see them. So I was relieved when I went to 10 minutes because at least I got a little more bang for my buck. But because season 2 does have a much different tone. You mentioned this a couple times, but to me, one of the coolest things about season 2 that stand out, even more so than the Mace episode, is they show how Palpatine is kidnapped. And I was hoping at the end of Clone Wars, Filoni's Clone Wars, that we would get to see their version of it, but they didn't touch it. They mention it, but they don't touch it at all. So we actually get to see Palpatine get kidnapped in this incredible sequence that lasts for a significant amount of time, where Grievous is chasing them down, and Shakti and 2 other Jedi are trying to protect the Chancellor. And Grievous very much reminds me of, was it the T-1000 in Terminator 2? He just won't stop, and he's frightening, and he's super cool.
Yeah. The second season did have a lot more room to breathe and kind of get invested in character, and particularly all the Anakin stuff. He goes on this kind of like spiritual vision quest type thing, which I think is another element that Filoni borrowed a lot from in terms of in Clone Wars and Rebels, the kind of cosmic, ethereal side of the Force or whatever. But I mean, it was a real pain to track down, but and still is. I guess that's like one of its legacies, I guess, is that it's hard to find. But we were talking before the show started about there were action figures and a fair amount of merchandise that came out of this. But I guess it didn't go beyond a second season because of that kind of falling out between Tartakovsky and Lucas, and maybe that's part of the reason why it was a little bit harder to find. But we need to release the Tartakovsky
the Snyder cut.
Yeah.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books but can't find the time? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects, top-notch narrators, and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. From Rey, Finn, and Kylo Ren to Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, you'll recognize all of your favorite characters from the Star Wars galaxy. Listen to the newest stories in the Star Wars universe, like Star Wars Queen's Peril by E.K. Johnston, read by the Clone Wars star Catherine Tabor. And if you like the audio original Dooku Jedi Lost, keep an eye out for Dr. Aphra, a brand new audio drama read by a full cast, including Mark Thompson, Catherine Tabor, Jonathan Davis, and more. Dr. Aphra is on sale July 21st. Pre-order now. With Star Wars audiobooks, you'll have plenty of Star Wars listening to keep you entertained. Available wherever audiobooks are sold. MEI and Mouse Fan Travel is your one-stop shop for your vacation needs and your plans to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or the cruise lines. Travel looks much different now than it did a couple of months ago, and with the opening of Walt Disney World and soon, hopefully, the opening of Disneyland, you need a place to go where you can trust, and they will help you figure out and navigate all the different circumstances and guidelines that Disney has put out for you. And I can say that we had our vacation modified, and as soon as dates were announced, MEI contacted me directly to help me reschedule, which is exactly what I was hoping to do. So if you are interested in rescheduling your vacation or want to try to plan a Walt Disney World, Disneyland vacation, or anywhere else you want to go on the planet, be sure to contact MEI and Mouse Fan Travel at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel. Their signature service and expert advice will help you maximize your vacation time and dollar, and they will help you figure out all the different changes and modifications going on at the Disney theme parks. They are amazing, and I can tell you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, the peace of mind that Becky Mencken and the crew at MEI and Mouse Fan Travel have given me is invaluable. If you're interested at all, again, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel. Well, I mean, you mentioned the figures. I do have the Anakin Skywalker version and the Yoda version that Kenner and Hasbro made, and they're very, very hard to find. In fact, when they came out, it's not like they were widely distributed because I don't think a lot of people recognize the animated style of the figures. Yeah, I'm not sure what Hasbro has to say about that, but I know that in all the figures, in all the years of Clone Wars, Star Wars: The Clone Wars has been out, the 3D version, you never really see an animated style figure. There were a couple from the first season of the Filoni one, but you don't really see it like you did for the Tartakovsky stuff. And that's a shame because the sculpts, I know Gentle Giant did a lot of cool stuff, a lot of statues and maquettes, because they are really, really cool figures. Or as far as talk to me about the animation.
They did one of the Tartakovsky?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have the Yoda on that donkey, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Don't tell me about this because now I'm gonna look it up and see how much it is.
You should.
Yeah, I was looking forward to Celebration this year to try to find. The only time I ever see those toys is at the booths,
Yeah.
So I always go for Star Tours stuff and Tartakovsky animated stuff. What are you looking at? You finding Rex?
I know I got something I'm going to show you. This is not really related to this, but since we're recording, speaking of Star Tours, I got this for you. I bought this.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, remember I got that for you. When did I get that?
Like a year ago or something?
Yeah, so I still have it. The 30th edition. Oh, I got it from Hollywood Studios when I went to see Rise of the Resistance. So I still got that for you, dude.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I was going to see you this week or this,
I know.
This month. Oh my God, the statue is amazing. Why did you ever show this to me?
Isn't it cool?
It's actually not that expensive. So, but that
see that
is
it's Gentle Giant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, they did a great job with the likenesses. So when you're designing an animated character, right? And you've got a wealth and a depth and breadth of animation and sort of how it works. You've interviewed some of the greats. You get to see all this stuff in advance. So you definitely are the man to talk to about this. What made this? Is it purely very Samurai Jack, or did Tartakovsky do something even more different for Star Wars?
No, I think he did. He pushed things. I mean, have you guys watched Samurai Jack at all?
I love it. It's super cool.
Yeah. So it's he does love that kind of fantasy, sci-fi thing. But yeah, I what I really loved was seeing him apply that style to a pre-existing property. Mm-hmm. And to really bring that to life in a way that is 100% his own. And I just think it's a beautiful representation of all things that I feel like Genndy is as an artist in terms of his interest in our relationship with the natural world, how technology plays into that, the kind of balletic beauty of violence that he is always so fascinated by. And if you haven't seen Primeval, I really recommend that. Not with the kids. This is his Adult Swim show that just came on last year, and I think there are more episodes coming out this year. Just amazing stuff. But he's a true visionary, and he's somebody who maybe did stray further away from the mythos, but ended up creating this amazing thing that's all its own, which is just so moving. And
I was looking really kind of with a fine-tooth comb about how far did he stray from the mythos?
Right.
What did he do that was so... Did I see anything that was so honestly not Star Wars looking? And some of the aliens and creatures don't look very Star Warsy all the time, but honestly, in some of the movies, I feel the same way.
Right. Well, I think it's a good time to maybe talk about the influence that these had on the canon. And
please.
Where do you see people drawing from this besides the Filoni Clone Wars?
Obviously Ventress is a character that went into Clone Wars, but she also was in a book, Dark Disciple, which is a canonical book that's tremendous. I know that the phraseology that Yoda uses to anoint Anakin to make him go from Padawan to Jedi, and he cuts off the braid. I believe that's from the Legends line, but that kind of verbiage is trickled into novels of the canonical nature as well. Right. Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship, obviously that was already kind of set in stone with Attack of the Clones anyway. You see that influence there as well. The fact that the Jedi are constantly pulled in different directions and individual Jedi masters that you just see in the background or very, very briefly in episodes 1 and 2 are showcased and actually get to go to different planets and liberate things and do things on their own, which obviously Filoni and company and Lucas borrowed very heavily from, because that was an effective method of storytelling.
Right. And also, I think episode 2 of The Mandalorian is very Tartakovsky Clone Wars.
Yeah, talk about that.
There's no dialogue. It's all heightened emotion. There's a crazy creature. It's funny. These Clone Wars are also very funny. And, Favreau and Tartakovsky have this amazing relationship because he based all the action in Iron Man 1 on Samurai Jack. And he brought Tartakovsky in to direct second unit on Iron Man 2, and he designed the best part of the movie, that crazy fight in the kind of like Japanese garden at the end of Iron Man 2. Yeah. That was all Tartakovsky. He storyboarded it. He shot it. Wow. And he was going to direct Thor at one point. So
really? Yeah.
So, I mean, I think a lot of the kind of like style of the MCU even has been set by Tartakovsky. And so it does not surprise me that when Favreau was doing the Star Wars show, that he brought that influence in. And I think it's really apparent in 2, which is my favorite episode of that first season, because I love Jawas and I love how wacky that episode is. And it just feels very much like a kind of lost Clone Wars episode almost.
I really like that. I think that's an apt comparison, especially like the style and sort of the kind of the cartoonish violence. It was also very gritty at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is a hard line to walk.
Yeah. It's never explicit.
Right.
It is in Primal or Primeval, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
But that's for an older audience. And also the last season of Samurai Jack, I appreciate that he's like, he's kind of aging up the content with the audience. But and I feel like some of the humor and some of the kind of like outside the box ideas of Last Jedi were inspired by the Clone Wars. I've never asked, Rian Johnson or anything, but that's just sort of a sensation that I get.
Interesting. Just kind of a more tonally, I guess, maybe.
Yes, tonally, for sure.
Yeah.
Again, crazy creatures and riding beasts and all that stuff that we got in Clone Wars.
And not being afraid to just kind of take it to a different avenue, still in the Star Wars style, but different than what we're used to. And you had asked me earlier, do I think it's I think it's Star Warsy, but it's not. But also that doesn't really mean anything anymore. Star Wars has gone through a lot of different directions, a lot of different lenses, a lot of different directors. I mean, I think you could argue that if you didn't know J.J. Abrams directed The Rise of Skywalker, you wouldn't know J.J. Abrams directed The Rise of Skywalker, because it's a completely different feel and tone from The Force Awakens itself.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I wish that there was more of these chances being taken within the Star Wars universe. I think that maybe the powers that be have a very locked down sense of what a Star Wars story is, and that there is not a lot of room for experimentation. But, with getting directors like JD and Taika on board, I think that I'm very hopeful that they will bring different energy and different sensibility and different design work. I would love to see that, because I mean the animated shows are really the only times that you're going back to old Ralph McQuarrie drawings and this and that, and there was a little bit of that in Rogue One and some of the sequel trilogy, but it's just great to like wholly embrace that aesthetic in a really cool way that you couldn't get away with probably in live action.
No, and if you had to choose between season 1 and 2, which one would you pick?
Well, season 1, I like the short episodes a lot, and I like Yoda on that goat, and I like Mace Windu versus all the robots. But
there's another great episode.
Definitely the more emotional, spiritual.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Anakin stuff, though, in season 2 is a little odd, I think.
It was odd, but it was also beautiful.
Yeah, it was cool.
I love Padme's design in animated form. She's so striking, and they still keep her in those crazy costumes from the movie that I love.
The hair.
Yeah. And the Emperor, or whatever he is, Sheev, my boy Sheev, his design is really, really fantastic in those episodes.
It is. And, one other thing that's really cool that we forgot to mention is in season 1, there's a couple episodes with Luminara Unduli and Barriss Offee where Yoda has to rescue them from Ilum. So Padme goes into this with Yoda, and it's just totally snow covered. And that's where this is the first time we ever saw on screen how a Jedi constructs a lightsaber. And that, I forgot to mention that earlier, shame on me, but that's a heavy influence on the arc, The Gathering, the Younglings arc from the Clone Wars that I wrote about for StarWars.com a couple of weeks ago. But in that one, they show for the first time canonically how you get a kyber crystal. In that one, there's only one crystal in the cave, and it's specifically for you. But in the Tartakovsky one, you go into this cave on Ilum, and there are crystals everywhere of all different colors, and you pretty much grab the one you want. But you still have to use the Force and telepathically build your lightsaber. And it shows that in Tartakovsky's. To me, that was a very, very big one. We'd never seen anything like that.
Yeah. And then we're still building our own lightsaber at Galaxy's Edge. And,
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like that obviously influenced The Gathering, and then obviously, went from there. But much like what I like about Star Wars is it's very Arthurian. Like there's no definitive Arthur. Mort Arthur is the one that people think about for Sir Thomas Mallory. But there are a lot of different people and minstrels that told stories of King Arthur, and people borrow from that. And to me, that's what the canvas of Star Wars Legends is. That's what Filoni and all the creators and Favreau and everybody are doing. When they're creating their own Star Wars stories, they're using that and they're mining it. And like you said, the main difference between Tartakovsky's and the Legends line of books, as far as I know, most of the Legends line of books are still in print. But this one is not. Now, obviously, there are other things that aren't out there readily available, like the Ewok movies you talked about, the Droid series, the Ewoks thing, and of course the holiday special, which probably that won't ever come out.
Yeah.
But not because of anything offensive, just because it's not good. But Clone Wars is good.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I do hope that it shows up. I mean, I'm very fortunate that I do have the DVDs. The only downside to the DVDs is even when you select you can either play it or select chapters, which is every individual episode. But when you watch it on DVD, it just plays it all the way through. There's never any indication of when you're going into the next episode. So you just kind of have to guess by the cuts when they move on to the next thing.
Right. Well, the end of the second season is like the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, right?
It is.
I mean, it's just crazy to me that something that was so obviously implemented as both a promotional tool and a kind of storytelling, ladder between the two movies was just ignored completely. It just boggles my mind that it's just been so relegated to the kind of like recycle bin of history.
Yeah. Well said. You should be a writer.
Well, I mean, how does the Star Wars kind of fan community respond to it?
I feel like much like the Emperor wanted the Jedi to be thought of, it's just sort of kind of gone the wayside because people don't really talk about it. And not because of the quality isn't there, because it is. Not because the animation isn't cool, because it is. The action is phenomenal, as we've been talking about. But, what they did, everything's about canon now. And what Filoni did was obviously very well received. And while there are some episodes that were much, much stronger than others, it was still a great series that I absolutely loved. So I just think it just kind of got forgotten because it wasn't out there. It's almost like people talk about the special edition versus the original Star Wars theatrical releases. Because, I mean, the special edition has been out so much longer than the original stuff.
Yeah.
So people don't even call it the special edition anymore. It's just Star Wars. And once in a while you throw in a McClunky or something crazy like that. But overall, I just think it's just time. I really do.
Yeah. And there wasn't enough merchandise to kind of like extend its longevity. Like I recently wrote about Dick Tracy, which also is 30 years old this week. But
which is weird.
Yes, it makes me feel very old. But there was so much stuff initially that it kind of has made its lifespan longer because there's a Dick Tracy t-shirt in every thrift store in the world probably, and there's toys and there's so much stuff that's still around. And it wasn't like that for this Clone Wars. It kind of, it was entirely produced in between two movies. It was sort of a, bridge thing between the two. And it was a promotional tool, but also an animated series. And it didn't quite have as much merchandise or visibility, let's say, than one of the canonical movies or TV shows.
No, I think that's true. I think that's true. And you know as well as I do is if the merchandise is out, that gets people talking. I mean that and now that everything's got such a short shelf life anyway, I mean, I don't know, hopefully it will come back. I'm going to ask certain collectors and stuff, especially on the next Facebook Live, what they think about the Tartakovsky series, because it's very cool. I've enjoyed your perspective. I've enjoyed your spin, of course. And the only thing I really wanted to say is you've taken kind of a hiatus from giving me crap on fine tuning with Drew Taylor. So I wish you would start doing that again.
I kind of get my zings in there when I can. You know that it's always difficult just staying awake during a Gin Hill recording session. So that's been my primary focus. No, I mean I've been so busy at work, and which is great, and I've been doing a lot of fun articles and interviews and stuff. But the time for fine tuning is sort of like very last minute, kind of slapdashy.
Sure.
So I haven't gotten to really.
As long as the Dan Z love is still there, I'm good.
Oh, the Dan Z love is like the force. It surrounds us, it binds us, it penetrates all human life, and
indeed,
and also goat life in the galaxy. So yes, for sure.
Okay, you've I mean, people hopefully are looking at your stuff on Collider because you've always got awesome insights and deep dives into a lot of really cool stuff that people really love and appreciate. But, just with the time we have left before your coffee runs out, Light the Fuse is one of the coolest, awesomest, that's not even a word, great podcasts out there. And can you just tell everybody about your 100th episode and how that came about? I mean, seriously, take as much time as you want, because I feel like what you got to experience, my friend, is like something that people like, take any podcaster, any genre they have, you got the mother load. I mean, short of having Tom Cruise, you had Euphoria. Talk about that.
Right. Well, what's funny is we knew the 100th episode was coming up, and we have had a really strong run of guests recently because everybody's home. And so we're just calling people and getting, time with them. And it's been really awesome. And we have a ton of amazing guests still throughout the rest of the year, really. I think we've recorded episodes until October or something. But we were stuck on this 100th episode. And we reached out to Paramount, who was absolutely no help. We tried everybody. We tried to get Hans Zimmer and a bunch of other people.
Wow.
And so finally we went to Christopher McQuarrie, who's the writer-director of Rogue Nation, Fallout, and the two new ones. And he wrote on Ghost Protocol. And we said, listen, we can't get anybody. Can you get on the phone? So we were talking to him, and we thought it was going to just be a kind of regular chat. And then he started texting people to come on the show. So then I'm running the Zoom. And so I'm seeing, Haley Atwell wants to join, and Simon Pegg, and Lorne Balfe, who is the great composer of the sixth movie, and he's going to be composing the seventh and eighth movies. And we got to make that announcement, which was cool and totally unexpected.
My goodness!
So it was great. It was so great. But I highly recommend that episode. It's really fun. You can tell how excited we are to be talking to everybody.
I love hearing your energy in it. It's so fun. It's so cool. Were you nervous, or were you just kind of like in the zone?
Well, it was just sort of like I'm in this closet on a Saturday afternoon. I mean, there was very little to lose, so we just ended up chatting. I think for almost 2.5 hours. We put the whole thing up online, and people have been really, really positive, and it's opened up like a whole new world of fans and stuff. So it's really cool. If you love the Mission Impossible movies, or if you just love movies, I would say if you love movies and you want to know everything about how to make a movie, we talk to everybody from Paul Hirsch, who you should have on the show, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean, he's amazing. Did you read his book?
I did.
It was great, right?
He's incredible, man. The stuff that guy has done. Yeah,
it's crazy. When we showed up to his house the second time, he said, "I can't believe you came back." So that was fun. So we have a Paul Hirsch Strikes Back episode from recently, and a lot of Star Wars crossover in the Mission Impossible world. We talked to Roger Guyette, we talked to John Knoll, Gary Rydstrom. So if you love Star Wars, chances are we're going to talk to one of our guests about it, because they've all worked on it. We talked to Dan Mindell, who shot Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. So it's
Star Wars comes up in Light the Fuse. I mean, you guys talk
all
it
the
comes
time.
up. Yeah.
So if you're interested, please check it out. It's great. I promise. I would not toot my own horn if I thought it wasn't. It's not because of us; it's because of the guests. But yeah,
see, that's the thing, right? I mean, you guys are so connected in this world, and you obviously love the stuff. And I mean, I think you in your field, but you are getting all the A-list people all the time. I mean, I seriously, and I mean this sincerely, I have no doubt that someday Tom Cruise is going to come on the show.
Oh, that is the dream. That is the dream. I mean, we thought we were going to be on set, so I think it's maybe good that we didn't try to go when they started shooting, because we would probably still be in Italy at this point, just eating our body weight and cheese, and
the food is great.
Our wives, but hopefully that everything will be sorted out. We'll be able to get on set and chat with him. That's what I think. That's, if it happens, that'll how it happens. Like, we'll catch him for 10 minutes when he's walking in between his trailer and the set or something,
combing his hair.
But we'll be ready. We will be ready.
So the one thing I want to ask before I let you go, where did your love of Mission Impossible come from? Because how did you decide, hey, let's do a podcast about Mission Impossible? I mean, how did that come up?
Well, and much like you and I talking about, Star Wars and Disney World and whatever every day, I loved the first movie so much. It kind of came out at a really impressionable time for me. And I would always just text Charles about it, who is my co-host. And anytime there would be news or a trailer or whatever, and I said, we got to just start a podcast before Fallout comes out. So we started it in May of 2018. Yeah, is that it? Yeah, 2018. And then we never thought there would be guests or anything else. We just sort of thought that we'd be talking about the movies or the TV show or something. And then it just it was like a game of telephone where like someone would call somebody else and say, these guys are great. They love Mission Impossible. You should go on their show. And then it kind of, snowballed from there. But I think people really appreciate our enthusiasm and how we have fun with it, but still take it very seriously. And there really isn't any, like, it's a very interesting fandom. Unlike Star Wars, it's sort of like people love the movies, but there isn't a community around it. So we're trying to kind of like provide that a little bit. We wanted to have a Comic-Con panel this year and all this stuff, but obviously the world changed, and here we are.
I would have sat in the front row and put "Love You" on my eyelids and closed them.
Raider stuff.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
As we begin to wrap up the show, I want to thank each of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a cup of coffee with me, and for helping to spread the word about our Star Wars family we've got here at Coffee with Kenobi. Be sure to tune in Monday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/live or www.facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, and have a cup of coffee, tea, or any beverage of your choosing with me as we continue the conversation. To join us in the CWK Cafe, which is our Facebook group, and share your Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-free, spoiler-free place that is also drama-free, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community and be a part of the conversation, talk about this week's show, or just talk some Star Wars. It is a lot of fun, and you'll make some new friends as well as catch up with longtime friends as well. I also want to thank all of my new and longtime friends who joined me in the CWK Cantina, and let you know how much I appreciate your help and encouragement, and love being able to give back to you with CWK Pour-Over, the exclusive weekly podcast not heard anywhere else. I want to thank Dennis Keithley, Jason Hall, Angela Sauce, Chris Kavarka, Aaron Harris, Alexander Moylan, Ross Halliban, Jeff Ellis, David Nicely, Jessica Berry, Colby Mead, Frank Mulder, LJ Souter, Dustin Mills, Robert Avila, Mark Suter, Nick Deco, Eric Struthers, Jared Cantor, Brian McKinney, Daz Davies, Thea Selby, Chris Metz, Caroline Maselli, Jim Capron, Blake Weaver, Dan Ream, Kurt McKellen, Christine, Simbad Tetradarian, Ian Thompson, Alex Fracasio, Hannah, Tyler Pompa, Connie Shee, Susan Gray, Chelsea Sansbury, Josh Boylan, Yancey Evans, Sagacious Crumb, and Greg McLaughlin. If you want an additional way to help out the show, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/support and join us in the Coffee with Kenobi Cantina. It's a great way to support and help out the show, and 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital to support the incredibly important work they are doing to help these brave children and their families. Plus, contributors at the CWK All-Star level can watch a video podcast of CWK Pour-Over hosted by me, Tom Gross, and Corey Clubb. In addition to being part of the community on Facebook, please don't forget to visit our website at www.coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, live video, and so much more. If you have a question for me or just want to share your thoughts on the air, feel free to email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com and I'll share them on the show. You can also connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zer, MRZEHR. There are also a lot of ways to connect with me and Coffee with Kenobi on social media. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi and check us out on Pinterest. You can find me twice a month on the podcast Looking at Lucasfilm, part of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network, and you can find my writing on CWK's website, as well as StarWars.com, where I'm an official blogger there, as well as on IGN, where I contribute articles on Star Wars, as well as other pop culture topics. And if you're considering starting a podcast or a blog, let me know how I can help you get started and help you make your creative vision a reality. Be sure to check out danzmedia.com and we can get the process started. I am also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. I want to inspire you to be inspired. Don't be afraid to take that first step into a larger world. Thanks as always to our CWK sponsors, especially MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, our travel partner and your one-stop shop for all things Walt Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Cruise Lines, or anywhere you want to go on the planet. Please go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel to book your magical vacation and help support Coffee with Kenobi in the process. If you like this show, please tweet out that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with us. And if the Force is especially with you, please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Google Podcasts. Every review makes a huge difference and helps to spread the word. Go to iTunes and search Coffee with Kenobi and you'll see the show there. My circle of friends has grown so much because of each and every one of you, and it means so much to me that we have such a wonderful Star Wars community. Well, hey man, let everybody know where they can find Light the Fuse, fine-tuning, and all of your great writing.
Yeah, Light the Fuse Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And if you love the show, please think about becoming a Patreon subscriber. It helps us out a lot. And then I'm on with Jim every week at Fine Tuning Pod on the Jim Hill Media Network. And you can just follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Drew Tailored, like the suit, Tailored. And you'll get a lot of very long Disney historical pieces and other things. But I promise you they're all very fun and you'll learn something. See, I try to be the Dan Z of, geek journalism, to try to teach people things. So, yeah.
Well, you've certainly taught us a lot on today's show. So, dude, thank you so much, as always, for being on Coffee with Kenobi.
Thank you for having me.
That's going to do it for this week's Coffee with Kenobi. A big thank you to Drew Taylor for joining me to talk about Tartakovsky's Clone Wars micro-series, Seasons 1 and 2. If you have them on DVD, be sure to check them out or revisit them again. They are really, really fun, really cool. It's fun to see how the Star Wars mythos has grown or may have grown from this work. Again, don't forget to join me Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live. And be sure to read Chapter 6 of the Rise of Skywalker novelization so that you can join us for this Coffee with Kenobi book study that we are doing on Facebook Live. And we also are coming up with our top 5 favorite bounty hunters. Should be a lot of fun. Hope to see each and every one of you there. Have a great week and weekend, everybody. And remember, this is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.
Looking to catch up on the latest Star Wars books? Try listening to them on audio. Featuring sound effects and music directly from the movies, Star Wars audiobooks are the definitive listening experience. With stories from your favorite Star Wars movies, television shows, and comics, you'll have plenty to keep you entertained. Start listening now wherever audiobooks are sold.